let's see, it's Sunday, late afternoon, April 5th. For once, we're recording 2 weeks in a row. If we stop after this episode, that would match our season length in all of our other seasons.
All right, well, we're doing pretty well then.
Yeah. It's a big week. It is Palm Sunday today. It is also WrestleMania.
The two biggest holidays.
The two biggest holidays. As it was, of course, Easter week. It is your birthday.
It is.
It's your birthday.
Well, wait, that's pretty identifying.
Well, it could be any one of the 7 days, I guess. I guess I could say your birthday is... Bleep it out, per usual. And it is also our 7th anniversary.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
It's also a pandemic.
Yeah,
remember that part?
I guess we won't go out to eat or anything.
Yeah. I mean, the reason that we have been able to record more is because of the pandemic. There are some positives, some negatives. Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, that's especially why I had time to edit our backlog of material and put it all up, and then now we're recording new stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's been a pleasure for me to go through it's reminded me, like, going through our old episodes has been illuminating. There's stuff that I've remembered that I want to talk about more. I recently put up the episode where we talked about the restaurant in North Carolina known as Beef Masters, where they serve exclusively, you can only get beef there.
Yeah. And wait, no, you can get one side dish and it's a potato. Yeah. I remember that.
But otherwise, it's just an amount of beef. And that got me thinking about how famed men's rights activist and quote-unquote philosopher Jordan Peterson is currently in a coma because his daughter made him go on an all-beef diet. Do you remember that?
I mean, I do know about that. So he's just still in a coma. That's been for weeks, though, right?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I think there's some conspiracy. Like, I guess his daughter has been putting up pictures of him as though they're current, but they're obviously not. So who knows? He's succumbed to something. Whether it's
Meat
COVID-19
overdose?
Or beef. It's unclear, but... Okay, well, what are you drinking?
I hope it's beef.
Yeah, I hope it's beef, too. Yeah. No one deserves to die from the coronavirus, but lots of people deserve to die from beef.
Wow, you're really going to get some hate over that.
Yeah. It's city business. It's city business. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking red wine out of a box.
Oh, wow. I'm drinking water in a cup still. But I do have a nicotine lozenge, which is the first one I've allowed myself since quarantine. It's a little treat.
But I think nicotine might be good for coronavirus.
Well, smoking might be good for coronavirus, right?
No, I never said anything like that.
Well, smoking because of the, trained hemoglobin levels or something like that. Well,
are there reports that it's good? Because I thought certainly it was bad.
Well, it's bad once... remember we were talking about how altitude-sick smokers do better or something?
No. I was saying that people have survived altitude sickness by chain smoking to trick their bodies into inhaling and exhaling in a manner that is therapeutic for altitude, acute mountain sickness.
Okay. I mean, I'd be delighted to know that nicotine was good for you in this context.
Well, I was trying to give you that.
Oh, well, thank you.
Because it's actually unknowable at this point. Like so many things.
I would like to medically advise all of our listeners to dose themselves with nicotine because that is a prophylactic, I guarantee it, against the coronavirus.
Okay, so you're gonna definitely cut that, right?
We'll see.
Well,
that's it's foreshadowing one of the catalogs we'll be reading from today. So that's the tie-in. One of our favorite catalogs. Yeah. So the catalog we thought we'd spend a few moments on today is one of our early favorites. I can't remember what of our many seasons this was discussed in, but Strictly Medicinal Seeds.
Boy, I love them.
It's great. It's a great catalog. It's really just a family who does it. It's great because the art in their catalog is so lovingly done, and it really is beautiful. It's like all line drawings of plants largely.
Yeah.
Also, I just love the name. The name is exclusionary. Strictly. Don't get it twisted where you think we might offer you seeds that are not medicinal. Strictly medicinal. So this is their 2020 spring-summer catalog. They're out of Williams, Oregon. I'll draw your attention to a couple things. We talked about the terms of business on page 4 of the PDF, which I think is interesting. Because they're strictly medicinal, they cannot advise, they have to have the disclaimers of that they're not going to cure your diseases or whatnot. Although definitely something in this catalog cures the coronavirus, I'm sure of it. Look on page 5 of the PDF called page 3. They have their own tincture press that they are willing to sell you, the Strictly Medicinal Tincture Press. There's a very, I would say, glamorous model. I'm shocked by how glamorous this picture is.
I mean, should we read about this tincture press, or?
Sure. So first of all, I want to say, if you're anything like us, you've talked about how you want to try to reduce the number of single-use appliances that you have in your kitchen. That being said, this enormous tincture press is extremely appealing to me. It is $1,800. Here's the description. This is the finest mid-sized tincture press available on the market. The result of 30 years of manufacturing experience made entirely in our steel shop in Williams, Oregon. So Strictly Medicinal Seeds has their own steel shop. These presses are 60-pound workhorses that have proven their worth in herbal manufacturing plants, herb schools, scientific laboratories, and the homes of serious tincture makers. The press efficiently expresses the liquid from herbal tinctures and infused oils, also expresses juice from any vegetable, fruit, or herb that has been thoroughly ground before pressing. Frame is of heavy steel construction, unbreakable, with a hard and shiny finish. All stainless steel herb contact surfaces, including custom piston, inner perforated cylinder base, and outer pan with a spout. 6-ton, fast lift, hydraulic jack squeezes out every last drop. But I do like that it squeezes out every last drop.
Yeah, of course you do.
Which I think is playful imagery. But I have to say, the idea of expressing liquid is very gross to me. That gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, but it's expressing. It's literal.
No, it's literal.
Couldn't be more correct.
Mm-hmm. They're also, I want to say, they have a real vertically integrated business model where they do the seeds, the extract, they'll sell you the tincture press. They advertise a number of books that they've written, plant medicine, growing at-risk medicinal herbs, the medicinal herb grower. They'll sell you herb rubbing screens, seed cleaning screens. And then once you get to page 7, you finally get my favorite thing about this catalog. All the line drawings of mice. Their mascot is a mouse. And their hobo jug band mice in particular.
I would say just jug bands.
Well, look at the knee patches on the fiddle player.
Yeah, they're living a settled, agrarian, rural lifestyle.
Yeah, I guess it wouldn't make any sense.
Lifestyle.
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense for mice selling seeds to be hobos. You're right.
But I want to call your attention to the Hoedown Seed Collection's contents, which I would argue is not strictly medicinal.
Tell us what is in the Hoedown Seed Collection that they'll sell you.
1 packet each of Blue Lake bush beans, Detroit dark red beets, Scarlet nonce carrots, Golden bantam corn, Marketmore cucumber, mixed cooking greens, beets, kale, collards, red auroch.
There's the auroch again, which I'd never heard of until last week.
And spinach. That's the mixed cooking greens.
Hmm.
And then mixed salad, which is mizuna, lettuces, arugula. They have Walla Walla sweet onions, Oregon sugar pod 2 peas, red curry squash, midnight lightning zucchini, and Chadwick's cherry tomato.
And again, the strong implication is that these, as a package deal, is what is required at a hoedown.
Yeah, so the Hoedown Seed Collection, fun and easy to grow, seed saver friendly, vacuum packed to last at least 3 years. So the idea is that you could buy 12 types of seeds and they would be shelf stable for a long time, and that would sort of be everything you needed to start a basic garden that would provide you with, if everything worked out well, lots of produce for a summer.
Maybe we can read... Let's read a few descriptions of watermelon.
So are we discovering that these are not strictly medicinal seeds? Is that becoming the theme of this particular reading?
I mean, it depends on how broadly you define medicine.
Well, they do look like they have a lot of vegetables.
Watermelon is medicine for what ails you.
I guess especially if you put a bunch of vodka in it.
I didn't realize that watermelons prefer sandy soil.
Yeah, but that means well aerated.
Not just sand.
Yeah, so rich means that it has organic material. And the problem is that sand doesn't hold organic matter well. So it's fine to have an area that's predominantly sand and drains really quickly as long as you've got something in there that's allowing it to hold a bunch of organic material. But I don't think our yard has that going on. To be fair, I did plant some watermelon seeds directly in the yard yesterday or the day before just to see what happens.
Hell yeah. Do you want to pick a couple things to read out of this catalog just in general?
Sure, well, I'll read the Moon and Stars watermelon because that's the one I planted. 70 to 90 days to maturity. Annual vine-bearing oblong fruits ranging in weight from 10 to 30 pounds. This is an heirloom classic with very sweet red flesh and an outer skin that is dark green with yellow markings that resemble the moon and stars shining out from the dark firmament.
That's a terrific description. That's
I agree.
Beautifully written.
Yeah, I really like it. I've wanted to grow these for years. I've never been a big melon grower, and I've actually never tried to grow a watermelon as an adult because I think
you put childish things behind you.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, they're susceptible to all kinds of like bugs and diseases and stuff, so they're, in my experience, kind of a pain to grow, and what you get out at the end is like something that would be fairly cheap if you bought it at the farmer's market or the store or something. So I haven't usually considered them to be worth the effort, but I've thought about growing this particular variety for years, so I'm giving it a try.
Moon and stars shining out from the dark firmament. Damn. Also, the drawing of the watermelon looks delicious.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, watermelons are great. And then I'll read the sugar baby watermelon.
I think we've encountered that before.
Oh, like we've read descriptions of it from other catalogs?
Yeah, sure. Read it though.
90 to 105 day annual vine bearing round fruits ranging in weight from 3 to 5 pounds. An excellent choice for small gardens, these do not take over like a standard watermelon will. This is the striped sugar baby. Very sweet red flesh. I mean, maybe that's what I should have done.
Well, I would love it if watermelons, quote-unquote, took over.
Well, the plant, the green plant part will take over. That's the other thing about growing any kind of a curcubid is that either you have to build something for it to climb on, or you have to be okay with it taking up a huge amount of space. And the sugar baby watermelon is the watermelon that I have grown in the past, but as I mentioned, only as a child and never as an adult, based on my traumatic experience of my father and grandfather cutting open my watermelons.
Did you talk about this on?
No, I just told
mic?
you about it.
Oh shit. Tell this
As
story.
far as I know, I mean, maybe I have. Well, I was growing sugar baby watermelons as a child, and we were having some sort of family barbecue, and my father and grandfather decided to check on the watermelons to see if they were ripe by cutting them open. Still on the vine. Cutting in, taking a little sample, and then they determined that they were not yet ripe, and so they duct taped my watermelon shut.
I found that to be heartbreaking as a story.
I was very upset about it as a kid. I was so mad.
It's pretty messed up.
It did not work, in case you weren't sure whether that might
just
work.
Duct tape plants closed and then they're fine.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm interested in reading to just get into the strictly medicinal component for a moment. I'll read a few descriptions of cleavers. Cleavers are native to woodlands and waste places of Europe and the US. The juice of the fresh herb is a lymphatic tonic and spring cleanser. Prefers regular garden or forest soil. You sow in fall or early spring. Flowers are tiny with white stars. They seem like maybe they are ancient. But here are a few cleavers. There's the madder, a climbing perennial native to the Mediterranean and southern Europe. The plant is a classic element of the medieval garden. Madder root contains a fine red dye. Sow in warm soil with germ in 2 weeks. There's the old lady's bed straw.
It's our lady's bed straw?
Oh, okay. I don't know why I really wanted that to be old lady's bed straw. Oh, Our Lady's bed straw is a completely different thing. That is the Virgin Mary. Our Lady's bed straw. Herbaceous perennial. Native to the British Isles, Europe, Asia, and Mesopotamia. Used as a clean and aromatic stuffing for mattresses. A curdling and coloring agent for cheese making. And a lymphatic and urinary tonic. Red dye plant. Plant prefers it dry and sunny. Space 6 inches apart, flowers creamy yellow. Man, you could... That's the shit, man. When the same plant you can stuff your mattress with, or take it as a urinary tonic, or use it for cheese making, or dye things red with it.
Yeah.
It's the best.
A real wonder.
Yeah.
A multitasker around the house.
There's not a picture of this, and I've never seen it, but I assume that this is a category of plant that just looks like nasty weeds on the ground. Wikipedia confirms it. It also causes contact dermatitis.
Well, that's
which
how
is
you know
definitely what you want in your bed. You want to fill your bed with poison ivy. They're in the same family as coffee.
Wow. Can you imagine if we decided to try to grow coffee? This is not the right climate for that.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds really cool, but...
I mean, it wouldn't. It would be bad. We could make, maybe with a lot of effort, a small amount of very bad coffee.
Well, what's in the garden?
Well, so we've had some gardening events this week. I decided it's really time to put in a garden bed at our new place, which I've been meaning to do for months, actually, and only recently have I found the time to really get invested in this process. So you and I went out to the backyard, and you put a shovel in the ground for the first time and discovered that about somewhere between 1/2 inch and 1 inch under the soil that has our lawn is just sand.
Yeah.
Because we live basically at the beach.
I don't understand how there can just be sand underneath everywhere.
Well, I believe that it's, again, I haven't checked this, but the state soil of Florida is a kind of fine grayish sand called mayaca. And I suspect that that's what we have, because it does seem like a fine grayish sand. So I guess we just live in a place where that's what the dirt is. So I don't know what we're going to do about a garden, because, if we had time to make some biochar or bring in a bunch of manure or something, that would be one thing. Mm-hmm. But we just have our little household compost pile, which has been pretty neglected through the winter. We put stuff in there, but
Sure.
I haven't been going out and turning it and getting it nice and hot like we had going in North Carolina. So stuff really hasn't broken down all that much, and we don't have much compost to speak of at this
Sure.
point.
I guess I just don't understand how a whole town could be built on sand. I say to you, everyone therefore who hears these words of mine and does them, I will liken him to a wise man who built his house on a rock. The rain came down, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. Everyone who hears these words of mine and doesn't do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain came down, the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat on that house, and it fell, and great was its fall.
But, I mean...
Matthew 7. And
okay.
Also the 3 little pigs.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that the type of soil that is above the hard compacted or bedrock, I don't think that matters, right? You don't build a house on top of the dirt.
Right. That's fair.
I mean, you can have a foundation whether the soil that is loose and on top is sand or is humus or something.
Wow. Scratch that parable.
Yeah, it doesn't really work.
Garbage.
I mean, if you don't have foundations, I guess.
Sure.
But people have those houses that are on stilts and stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure. We also could have planted in these large cloth planters, which I apparently threw away during the move, or else we can't find them. It's a source of great conflict in our house right now that I may have disposed of this priceless possession.
Well, I mean, priceless isn't accurate, I guess, but...
Well, we can't get more right now for reasons.
Yeah, I mean, gardening stuff has really been selling out, and also...
Yeah, you wanted to talk about the run on seeds.
Yeah, so I was really excited. I was excited to see this article. Was it just this week? In the Washington Post. Boy, time really... Who knows what's going on with the progression of time. This article about how seed companies are in the midst of a huge boom where they're struggling to fulfill orders that are several times greater than what they normally have at this time because...
People be prepping.
Yeah, I mean, there's two possibilities, right? There are people who are like, oh shit, what if we run out of food? Which, as a somewhat experienced gardener, I would say I'm a novice, but I've done it for a bunch of years.
Well, the sort of the experience curve has a very long tail on it. You're far more experienced than the median gardener, I would say.
Well, I guarantee you you're not going to be able to grow anything that would actually feed you.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to really know what you're doing, and really you need to have years of effort put into the piece of land you're working on.
If you want to feed yourself on your garden, you need to be growing sweet potatoes or potatoes.
Yeah.
Like that's, I don't know how you get enough calories without that.
Yeah, and just like growing stuff in the garden is hard, and you need to have enough space, but you also need to know what you're doing. Even if you've got a very intensive small gardening operation, I mean, it's years of experience and knowledge that it takes. Just even figuring out where in your yard to site the garden. So if these are people who have not had gardens before and they're thinking they're going to start one up, I think it's a great time to do that, because it's always a great time to do that. Certainly it's not going to pay for itself. It's never been my experience that it was financially worth it. But it is fun and soothing and really awesome to be able to go outside every day and see that nature has progressed in some visible way, where you can actually see a seedling has grown visibly taller since the last time you looked. All of that stuff is great. And I think it probably is just like the toilet paper problem. A lot of it is not people suddenly panicking who've never bought seeds before, but it's probably a lot of people who are like, oh, like me, realizing, I guess I'm going to have a lot of time at home in the next couple of months. And
or, I know I can get them now, but will I be able to get them in a month?
Yeah, I mean, that too, because most of the companies they talked to for this article, they did interview someone from Burpees, but they were interviewing a lot of the hard-hitting favorites of this podcast, which are the smaller specialty or organic or worker-owned seed companies.
Baker Creek is hiring right now. They've been doing a lot of advertising.
And I love that those companies are getting lots of business.
We didn't mention in the last podcast that we should have that Southern Exchange is worker-owned.
Southern Exposure.
Southern Exposure Seed Exchange is worker-owned. We should have plugged that.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm glad that those companies are getting 2 or 5 or 10 times their normal volume of business. I think that's great. It's a great time to start your garden if you have lost your job or you're working from home, because it's something to do and it feels good to do.
Let's move on, though, to our old favorite, Burpee. And I wanted to do a deep dive into a particular tomato that caught my eye. I actually was looking at it in their 2019 catalog, but I'm looking at it online here. And it is a sweet seedless hybrid tomato. So the claim being made is that it's seedless. I will say, I don't know if you have this up, Allison, but the picture of it that they post it really seems like it has some seeds in it. So it's a confusing picture to put up at the very least. I'll read the description. We've come to appreciate seedless watermelons and virtually seedless cucumbers. Now the world's first seedless tomato. Beyond the lack of seeds to digest, which, I don't know, is that a thing people are bothered by? Having to digest seeds? Beyond the lack of seeds to digest, this tomato is first-rate for taste. The perfect balance of flavor and sweetness, meat and gel. So, it's disgusting. Not just the meat part, but gel. Solid firmness and juiciness.
Well, in case you were worried that without the seeds there would be no gel.
Yeah. That's the part you don't want to miss out on, is the gel inside of tomatoes. And precisely because there are no seeds, all that sweetness goes into the fruit itself. That's like magical thinking, I think, about how sweetness works. And precisely because there are no seeds, all the sweetness goes into the fruit itself and is immediately available for you to enjoy in every rich slice. The indeterminate plants also have a full complement of disease resistance to ensure plenty of healthy yields. I hate this description. Here are the claims being made. We value in a tomato the gel aspect and its resemblance to meat, which that's well-trodden territory for us. The dubious claim that sweetness that would have gone into a seed instead goes into the fruit itself and is, quote, immediately available for you to enjoy. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's
it doesn't mean
confusing.
anything. Anyway, I'll put a picture of this up. And as we like to do when we read seed descriptions online, I wanted to read you a few reviews from the Burpee site. First of all, only 65% of reviewers recommend this product, which is a pretty bad rate for a site like this, I would say. Here's some reviews. Polly4 says, poor outcome. Tried these last year and not pleased. Only one seed out of the entire pack germinated. Even a horticulturist friend had no success getting them to germinate. The one plant yielded one tomato, which was small. Despite being discouraged, the one small tomato was tasty. Won't try this tomato again. 2 stars. Pete33 says, don't buy the hype. These tomatoes are neither seedless nor sweet. I paid the price for these and planted them away from the garden as directed. They produced a fair amount of tomatoes, but never again. Of the 8 types of tomatoes I planted, these were the worst.
Yeah, when you're trying to do something like
1 star.
Sorry, I interrupted.
That's
I didn't
okay.
realize that was coming. When you're trying to do something like make a seedless tomato, I have to assume that you're not actually breeding that because home gardeners are demanding the option to not have to digest seeds. It's because
Who asked for that?
Well, it's because a commercial, presumably like a tomato sauce maker, would like to spend less effort straining the seeds out
Heinz
of their product.
ketchup was like, can you make us a...
Which, sure, that's fine, but like, why are you trying to convince me that it is difficult and that it's arduous for me to digest seeds? I can't possibly be expected to digest tomato seeds, and that my life will be improved if I can grow seedless tomatoes.
Sunshine74 says, poor germination plus tired for several years improve. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease in August of 1999. Oh man. I don't want to make light of this, but just in a seed review that you put online, I'm going to try to give a straight read of this. Poor germination plus tired for several years improve. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease in August of 1999 and eventually had my large bowel and part of my small bowel removed. That has left me with a permanent ileostomy. So, I am in constant search for seedless produce. I guess there's the reason.
Yeah, I just learned something, that there is a customer who is looking to not have to digest any seeds. So I guess I take back what I said.
Well, she did give it 2 stars.
Oh,
because it had some seeds in it.
Oh, all right, go on.
Jingniman45 says, too bad they weren't seedless. This tomatoes ended up not being seedless. A big disappointment as I cannot have seeds. 1 star.
Well, the dream of a seedless tomato is yet unfulfilled, I guess. And it's a dream I didn't know anyone had, but at least I've learned that someone does want that.
Charlotte says, great product. I bought these earlier. I bought these earlier, and I'm very pleased with the tomato. 2 stars.
Huh.
Mom of 13, Jesus, says, great reaping. We bought the seeds and plants. Both have done great.
Oh, wow. Here's another one. I was diagnosed with diverticulitis last year and thought I had to stop eating tomatoes. Okay, so there are people for various, primarily bowel-related reasons who are hoping to find a seedless tomato. I guess if I needed to avoid seeds, I would cut them out, like when I cut up the tomatoes. But I can imagine that gets to be sort of a pain.
Well, what's important is that when they were trying to breed the seeds out of these, they said to themselves, gotta make sure we keep the gel, though. Free2C3Z1 says, poor quality. Started out big greed tomatoes, but when ripens, was very sickly and rotten on the vine, or within a day after picking. Does not hold up whalk. At end, all very small, but also no ability to last more than a day after picked, or bad beef, or even ripe. Will not buy again, 1 star.
Well, that is deeply confusing. I mean, I actually don't understand what they mean by some of those things.
Yeah. There's
especially bad beef, obviously. Bad beef. I don't know what that's
bad
a typo
beef,
of.
But great gel. There's a lot of contention over whether these are seedless or not. Like, a lot of people are having issues with seeds.
Well, so here's my hypothesis. One of the earlier reviewers mentioned that they made some space to plant them far away from their other tomatoes. I would guess that they are only seedless if they're pollinated by also seedless tomatoes. Mm-hmm. And so probably it says to, plant them far away from other tomatoes. And probably what that means is like a quarter of a mile or half a mile or something. So the people who either have a large amount of space and they can separate them from their other tomatoes, or who live in the country so their neighbor's garden doesn't have some tomatoes that are, cross-pollinating or whatever. Maybe those people are successfully getting seedless tomatoes, but if you have any other kind of tomato nearby, which again, you have literally no control over if you are living in an urban environment, they're getting some seeds. That's my guess, but sure. Obviously I don't actually know the genetics of this particular plant.
A lot of people are saying, besides like the diverticulitis, people with dentures have a hard time with tomatoes with seeds in them. It gets stuck in their dentures, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
We're showing our youth privilege by not knowing about dentures. Although I have advocated that we might want to knock all of our teeth out and put in fake teeth now.
Well, we still need to watch that documentary about those people who went to live on the Galapagos Island.
Can you give a quick, real brief synopsis of this?
Well, I first heard the tale on My Favorite Murder, but there is a documentary about it, and that these people, they moved to the Galapagos from Germany or Austria or something like that. And they decided that as a, prophylactic measure, they would have all their teeth removed before going and then have one set of stainless steel dentures that they would have to share.
This was a dentist.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah. The thing that's most confusing about it is that one half of this couple was by profession a dentist. So actually, they could have had a guaranteed ongoing access to dental care. So it's very confusing that he would say, basically, you know what, let's just take out all of our teeth just in case they have problems in the future.
And then make one set of dentures that we have to pass back and forth to use.
Yeah, why not make 2 sets?
Also, wasn't he part of that weird niche cult of people who think you have to chew everything 100 times before swallowing it? with your one shared set of stainless steel teeth?
Yes, that was like a health fad of the time that they ascribed to. So they would trade these dentures back and forth and chew many, many times each bite.
Anyway, they would love these tomatoes.
Yeah, that would be good for them.
Yeah. So there's a tiger at the Bronx Zoo with coronavirus now.
Let's not talk about that. We already covered how we're living in a bad time. We don't need to give people up to the minute news that will be a week behind by the time they get it.
All right. I just want to ask you the following question. Would you rather contract COVID-19 from that tiger and then have a, 2-week illness that culminates in your death?
Well,
or be mauled to death by that tiger?
Well, you know about that woman who was attacked by a bear and had somewhere between $250,000 and $500,000 worth of medical treatment after her bear mauling, and
Sure.
She was like, the worst part is how much money I owe.
Yeah, that's right.
That's my answer.
Okay. Yeah, I'd want to get mauled to death also. All right. Well, let's move on from that now to a new edition of our now classic segment.
What the fuck is that?
What the fuck is that?
And this, you have a new take on this game for us?
Yeah, I don't know anything about roses. It's not something I've ever grown. But I do know that there are lots of rose cultivars named after celebrities. So this is going to be similar to the game of What the Fuck Is That we played last week, where I'm going to name a celebrity, and then you tell me what you think the rose named after them would look like, and then I'll show you the rose and we'll see if it matches.
Terrific.
So my first celebrity is Betty White.
Betty White has a rose?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's so good.
Yeah, she's, for many reasons, that's exactly as it should be.
Yeah. Of course, she plays the character Rose on Golden Girls. All right, well, on Golden Girls, Rose is from St. Olaf, which is supposed to be like a country bumpkin Mayberry type salt of the earth town.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, I'm going to go with that this is an extremely rustic looking rose.
What does that mean to you? Does it have a lot of petals or very few petals? Is it
Yeah,
more
I think a
open,
not
or-
overly bred for beauty rose is, I guess, how I would characterize it. So lots of leaves, a moderate amount of thorns, a bloom that isn't particularly dramatic, but in its form as a bush is an attractive element to have around the homestead.
What color blossoms do you think the Betty White rose would have?
Well, that's a leading question, but I think I'm going to go with white, not only because that is her last name, but because her character on Golden Girls is from Minnesota.
Okay. So the bloom color of the Betty White rose is actually medium pink. And the bloom shape is double cupped. And so these are very large numbers of petals of, rather than one of those single roses where it's a really open cup that just has one row of petals, which would be sort of a wild rose. This looks more like what you think of. It's a tea rose. And it's a pink color. Looks like that.
Huh. That looks like the sort of rose you would see floating in a mirrored pool. I would say it's a suggestive looking bloom, even. I don't know what it suggests, but it's a little horny.
Wow. Didn't expect that, but okay. It's a very full petal pink rose that is reported to have a great fragrance.
Oh, like Betty White.
I assume
she's got to smell terrific.
Sure, why wouldn't she? What do you think the Freddie Mercury rose looks like?
I think it has a thin little mustache. What if it has a row of leaves? A thin little row of leaves right under the bloom that resembles Freddie Mercury's classic mustache. What else? I would say that there has to be an inherent drama to it. Maybe it's the kind of rose that when a person is dancing, they might carry in their teeth. If you can picture that kind of rose. It doesn't really mean anything about its appearance, but it's got that kind of vibe. You think it would
be a long-stemmed red rosebud, which I think is the
carry in your teeth.
Carry in your teeth rose.
It has a kinetic energy to it, and a little row of leaves. It's like a mustache.
Okay. Well, the Freddie Mercury rose looks like this.
Oh, that's beautiful. I would characterize it as peach-colored, but then as you get to the outskirts, it has it's like pink-rimmed.
Yeah, the petals have pink edges, but they're more yellow or apricot-colored in the rest of the rose, in the rest of the petal. And apparently it was named after Freddie Mercury. Following his death, I guess, members of the Freddie Mercury fan club raised the money to have a rose named in his honor.
Wow. Yeah. What a great gift.
Yeah, that's so nice.
How much money does it cost? How much did they demand for those naming rights?
Well, this was in 1994, and it cost £2,000.
Huh. That's a steal.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Like, if we could get a varietal named after us for $2,000, I'd consider that to be a bargain, though certainly it would be a huge waste of money for us. We can't afford it.
Not
but if
happening.
If we were rich, we'd be hard pressed to not just. I guess that's why rich people get stuff named after them all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's well within their means.
Yeah, why not? Why not waste money on something?
But instead of,
you've got so much of it.
A university library for me, it would be like, listen, all the carrot varieties that are new in the next 30 years are all going to be named after me in some way.
Boy, that would be a weird flex. Okay, what do you think about the President Herbert Hoover rose? It's not exactly a celebrity, but it is very funny.
Well, that's topical as we're currently entering another Great Depression. I would say it's a poor man's rose. I would say small and shitty looking. Cheap to produce, perhaps.
Let me give you a little historical background.
Okay.
And then let you then decide what you think it would look like. As we all know, Herbert Hoover's 1928 campaign slogan was a chicken in every pot and a car in every garage. And so that was 1928. And then in 1929, a rose breeder decided to name a rose after him. So this is very early in his presidency. He's on the up and up. And unfortunately, the rose did not go on sale until 1930, when the resonance of Herbert Hoover's name was no longer one of
prosperity.
Our imminent, glorious prosperity, but was in fact associated with absolute economic collapse. So
you're saying this is a particularly lush rose.
So I'm saying when it was named after him, the person naming it thought, this is a very fancy rose, and I'll associate it with this person who is now incredibly popular. But by the time it actually came to market, everything about that choice had gone away.
All right, so with what you're telling me, I would say it's gotta be a rose that grows really well, overproduces, a lot of blooms in a little area, real lush, colorful. I'll say its central feature is how productive it is when you grow it.
And what color do you think it should be?
Something that is American, something that evokes Americana, maybe reds and whites.
Okay, so it's actually a variety of orange hues, from copper to orange with pink undertones. It's a double petal rose, so it has 16 to 25 petals per bloom.
It's a lot of petals.
The blooms are 4 to 5 inches across, so they're pretty large. And it looks like this.
Wow, I feel like the saturation in that image is up really high, or it just is amazing to look at.
There's quite a range of pinks and apricots and
really
coppers and oranges.
Huge.
Yeah, it's a beautiful rose.
Yeah. That almost doesn't, it's so big and open that it almost doesn't looks like a different flower to me. The shape that I associate with a rose would still have the contours of a bulb in some way, right?
Well, these are fully open.
They are, but like a standard rose, even when fully open, I don't think looks as open as those do. Do you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. I mean, I guess roses open to different degrees before the petals fall off, but these seem pretty standard to me.
Yeah, right.
But they're really showy.
Yeah.
They're like a gorgeous dawning of a new, proud era of American prosperity.
Yeah.
And implicit in that egalitarian, at least distribution of, the means to have a fulfilled basic lifestyle.
Oh, yeah. Lucy's really licking in between her toes right now. Lucy, that's how
you don't have to tell them.
That's how she's gonna get COVID-19.
Okay, so let's do one more rose.
Okay.
And this rose is the Marie Curie rose.
I would say, and again, I struggle. I've like strong conceptual ideas for what these are, but they're not like manifested in how I think they would look. But I think probably like the origin story of this rose would be engineered, or like some sort of like interesting science or chemistry went into the engineering of this varietal. Beyond that, maybe it's prize winning in some way, like it is won major awards in the way that she is notable for her Nobel Prizes. Maybe it looks like some sort of mad science was done to it. Like it's got like it's three-headed, or I don't know, got some freakish physical quality that has been engineered into it. I think it's yellow.
You think it's yellow? Okay, so in terms of color, I truly can't even say, because there are...
Wait. That brings me to a new guess. Does it have some sort of like UV reactive coloration to it? I want to get like radioactivity into this somehow, but...
Well, a lot of flowers actually do have UV patterns on them.
Well, that's my guess.
Well, that might be, but also it's just that I've seen white, pink, orange, yellow, every color that roses come in. Basically, you can get a Marie Curie rose in that color.
Huh.
There's probably something here that a hardcore rose expert could tell you. There must be something about the development of this strain. Or maybe there are just like tons of different cultivars called Marie Curie.
Interesting.
I actually am not sure, but they all seem to be beautiful double roses. A lot of the colored ones have
gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like that. So a lot of the colored ones have spots on them, but not all of them do. Here's a white one. So they've got tons of petals and they've got multiple flowers on each stalk.
It's like a classic wedding rose is what I'm looking at there.
Yeah. So lots of petals, several blooms per stem. Very showy, but the actual specifics of the color seem to be immaterial, or it comes in a bunch of colors. So.
These are all beautiful, the ones you've showed me. Like, none of them look like the sort of rose that if you go into a supermarket, it's in the flower case that you would get. All the ones you showed me are showy. What's the ugliest rose? Which is a question I'll now ask Google. On gardenstew.com, there's a thread titled, "Ever Seen an Ugly Rose?" started by Strat's mom. And it reads, "I hate to say it, but this rose is ugly! UGLY. In the catalog, they call it Cafe au lait, and it looks kind of beige, orangish, tannish. Well, in real life, it's gray. In the bud form, it has a very light purplish tint to it. Then, when it is fresh and just opened up, it retains a little of the lavender tint. After being open a day or so, it becomes gray. Not white, but gray. Strangest thing I've ever seen." There's a picture of her holding one. The pictures are titled "Ugly Gray Roses" that she posted. Okay. Oh, interesting. So, on the topic of roses named after celebrities, a post on hows.com forum titled "The Ugliest Rose I Ever Grew, the Charles Darwin Rose."
Okay, that's funny.
Posted by Stone Garden. He says, "Well, they grew okay, sending out long spider canes. Not much bloom except in the spring. Unfortunately, they never did mention the yellow lemon puff flowers they had. Sometimes they were yellow, sometimes a putrid shade of cream. And all would age to an indescribable, wretched shade of parchment. I tried telling myself to hold on to these for the smell, but I couldn't stand the flowers that looked like something the cat brought up. This year I replaced them with a rescued from Walmart lemon zest, which is a delightful shade of yellow that holds its color. I know that some really like Charles Darwin, but I had to quit lying to myself and only feel relief that I won't have to look at those sickly cream Charles Darwin flowers again." What do you think about that? What do you think of your hero now?
I guess I don't know what this rose looks like.
Yeah, let's see if we can get a picture of the Charles Darwin rose.
Okay,
they look
so they're
nice
very
online.
Large.
Yeah.
One of their traits is that they're exceptionally large blossoms.
All the pictures look yellow when you Google them, but apparently they are a putrid shade of cream, according to the grower.
Well, to be fair, I think a lot of the exact hue depends on growing conditions,
sure.
Right? So it's possible that if his soil had been more whatever or less whatever, they would have been yellow like these pictures we're seeing.
It's a poor gardener that blames their seeds.
Well, whatever. I mean, maybe it wasn't right for that spot, but they look extremely full and frilly. They're huge roses with tons and tons of petals. The description on this particular website says that they're vigorous and disease-resistant with attractive bushy growth and a strong and delicious fragrance. Oh, interestingly, all the descriptions of the Marie Curie rose mention that they lacked a strong fragrance. So I don't know that means anything.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
These Charles Darwin roses are cream to yellow, full petals.
Look, you have to quit lying to yourself.
Well, I've never really grown a rose, so I guess I won't start with the Charles Darwin.
All right, well, I guess that's it. We gotta watch WrestleMania. That's coming up. If you're inclined, follow us on Twitter at @CDBusiness. We're on Instagram at CDBusinessPod. You can email us at cdbusinesspod@gmail.com. Rate us poorly, ideally, and review us poorly, ideally, on iTunes.
But if you do decide to rate us, please comment on our meat and gel content.
Yeah, do you feel we have enough gel?
It's CD business. It's CD business. Boring talk about seeds, CD talk between boys. Mind-numbing chatter about ovules and spores. We'll dig a ditch and we'll moan. Let's get the difference. It's CD business. It's CD business.